Welcome everyone to the Ask Me Anything session for Microsoft Security Service Edge Solution. I am Frank Amolka, your moderator for today's session, and with me are some of the product leaders building the Microsoft Entra Internet Access and Microsoft Entra Private Access products. These folks are here to help answer your questions, as I'm sure there are quite a few. Joining me from the product management team are Sinead O'Donovan, Yair Tor, and Ashish Jain. I'd love to give you folks a moment to introduce yourselves as well. Sinead, would you like to start off?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Sinead. I'm the VP for Product Management for everything SSE. Excited to be here. Yair?
Yeah, thank you. I'm Yair, Product Manager in Sinead's team. I've been working on network security for the last 25 years, but this is by far the most exciting product I've been working on. Ashish, you're muted.
Thank you, Yair. Hi, everyone. My name is Ashish Jain. I'm also a product manager on the Security Service Edge team under Sinead, and my specific focus is Entra Private Access.
Awesome. Well, thank you folks for introducing yourselves. Our first question that we have from the audience is, how important is it to have MFA and or conditional access capabilities for on-premises legacy apps? Since this is a private access question, Ashish, I think you'd be a perfect person to answer this one.
Sure, I can take that one. Often private applications have been built several months or years ago. They don't understand modern identity. They are using old protocols, especially the authentication protocols. They are using protocols like NTLM. They're using protocols like Kerberos. These are applications which have been used for years, like SMB applications or remote desktop RDP applications. And you really don't want to leave these applications or these protocols open over the wire. You really want to protect them. Essentially, one compromised user and one compromised device can hold your entire network to ransom. So you really want to protect, you really want to abolish all trust in your network. That is where the zero trust network approach comes in. And although the best approach is to modernize the application, and in several cases, your source code may not be available, your developers may not be available, your vendor may not be available, it may just take time to modernize the application. And in these situations, the Entra Private Access enables you to seamlessly bring in multi-factor authentication or conditional access in front of any private application, whether it's UDP, whether it's TCP, whether it's SMB, any protocol, you name it, we are able to secure access to that application and enable seamless access, which is based on zero trust and using our identity-centric approach to ZTNA.
Thank you, Ashish. Thank you. Next question, we have a question from LinkedIn. What do you all see as the main benefits for integrating identity and network security into a single solution? Sinead, I think this would be a great question for you to answer.
I think it all starts with your access policy. And when you look at user accessing any application, whether that be an internet destination or, as Ashish was talking about, a private application like SAP or your Linux server, you really want to make sure you have a really good policy engine that's controlling access. And I think at Microsoft, we have conditional access, which is an amazing, it started with identity-centric, and now with the integration with SSE, we've really brought the two, the identity control plane and the networking plane together, so that you can use conditional access for everything. So now you can bring that beautiful power of being able to use user risk or device risk or put MFA in front of all access requests. So I think that's the very first one, is all about the policy engine. The second one that's really nice about an identity-centric approach is you really, for your policy engine to work well, you want like, okay, what's one place to manage all your users, one place to manage all your apps, and then one place to kind of integrate all your risk signals, whether it be device compliance with Intune or user risk from identity. And so the ability to like have all the metadata that you need to reason on your policy available, an identity provider can do that kind of better than anyone else. And so I think then the third one is sort of the integrate with everything around the identity objects, like governance. When an employee joins, how do you get them added to the right users and groups and to the right permissions? When they leave, how do you offboard them? When they move within the company, how do you adjust the permissions? So the whole governance integration, again, as you think about, I'm trying to protect all of the user to any destination, I think this is what's unique about sort of having an identity-centric approach.
Thank you, Sinead, for that answer. Do have a quick question as well from Dominic on our tech community. On a high level, how is Entra Private Access different from Entra Application Proxy, both regarding functionality as well as the licensing part of it as well? Are there any plans to deprecate the latter in favor of the former? Any plans to deprecate App Proxy for Entra Private Access? Ashish?
Sure. That's a great question. And Application Proxy has been a zero trust network access solution available from Microsoft for quite some time now, for several years. And we have millions of users using Application Proxy. It works great for applications which are based on HTTP, HTTPS, essentially web applications, right? So whether you're using APIs, whether you're using applications which are web apps, App Proxy works great. Now, one of the key feedback that we've heard is our customers need a secure service edge solution, an SSE-based solution which is deeply integrated into our identity fabric. And that's where Entra Private Access comes in, wherein it not only secures access to your existing applications, which App Proxy does, but it also enables an SSE-based secure access approach to all your private applications. So whether they are TCP applications, UDP applications, whether you're doing RDP or SMB, your SAP, or any such applications that you want to access, you are now able to secure access with Entra Private Access to all these applications. And the great thing is that as we've built Entra Private Access, we've kept this in mind that the millions of users who already use Application Proxy can seamlessly come forward to Entra Private Access, which means that all your existing applications that you've defined in Entra ID, you will be able to use them with Entra Private Access. You don't need to redefine them. You don't need to migrate them as such. They will all seamlessly work with Entra Private Access. The connectors that you've deployed perhaps on your on-premises network infrastructure, they will also be seamlessly updated to the newer version, and you'll be able to use that with Entra Private Access. So we've kept in mind that you're able to seamlessly come along. If you want to enable an SSE-based access to all your private applications, Entra Private Access can seamlessly bring you forward to Entra Private Access. We do not have any specific plans for deprecating Application Proxy. Application Proxy will continue to exist. It works great for a set of customers, for a set of scenarios, and it will continue to do that. But a big part of our investments is focused on our SSE product. That's where we will light up more capabilities. That's where we will enable secure access going forward.
Great. Thank you, Ashish, for the answer there. Another question from Dan on our tech community. Certain features in our security service edge solution seem to overlap with other Microsoft products. Some examples being app discovery, which is similar to cloud app security in the security admin center, as well as web content filtering. It looks pretty similar to web filtering in Defender for Endpoint. The question is, will Microsoft make an effort to unify these in the long term? And in the short term, will there be guidance released on how to use these technologies together in a way that doesn't cause conflicts or procedural confusion and administrator workload on top of that? Yair would love you to answer that one.
Okay, this is really a great question, and I think that overall the way we think about it is defense in depth. For example, in the example of endpoint security, web content filtering on Defender for Endpoint and web content filtering on our side could be seen as kind of like overlapping, but in reality they provide slightly different value. On the endpoint, you typically don't do TLS termination. On our solution, on the edge, you're able to do TLS terminations. Therefore, you can see URLs, for example, and you can have a little bit more precise policies. So we do see value for having these seemingly overlapping capabilities in certain solutions if they add value. And our long-term path, obviously, like you hinted in the question, is to actually make one policy that, for example, you set a policy for web content filtering and the endpoint or the edge, the service side, kind of understand where is the best place to enforce it. We are not there yet, but this is kind of like the North Star. In the meantime, definitely we should publish more specific guidance in any place there is a confusion. But this is definitely, how the future look like. And another example is the CASB solution. It works perfectly side by side with our solution, but we have a plan to actually bring the CASB into the inline proxy part of it into our solution, like the app catalog, for example. and other key components of the CASB solution.
Great. And in addition to that, Yair, kind of very specifically with Defender for Endpoint, users kind of using Defender for Endpoint to protect their workloads. Is it recommended to use the Global Secure Access or Entra Internet Access solution when we already have Defender Smart Screen accomplishing much of the block categorization? Any suggestions there on how to leverage both for defense in depth?
Yeah, so two key questions that you need to ask before you actually move forward. Like the first one is the device coverage. Do you have basically coverage for all kind of devices that are going to the internet, whether this is IoT devices or any operating system? Do you have coverage? So that is your first question. Second question is how granular you want to be. Is it just enough for you to be in the granularity of FQDN with no TLS termination? Do you want to have like deeper view into the traffic logs and enforcement with TLS termination? If the answer for either of these questions is yes, then our recommendation is to do both. And in the future, we'll make it easier for you to know, that you only set policy in one place and enforce it wherever it needs. But as I said, we're not there yet.
Thank you, Yair. Another question from Dave on our tech community. This is regarding kind of our new Entra Suite offering, Entra ID Suite offering. The question is, will the new Entra Suite be able to replace my existing identity governance or identity and access management solution? And if not, will it enhance my governance capabilities? Sinead, would love you to take that one.
Sure. I think it depends, right? It depends what is your current identity governance solution. So if you're on SailPoint or if you're on CyberArk, if you're on some other solution, you will have to evaluate Entra governance to see if it meets your needs. Our Entra governance suite is our Entra governance product is part of the Entra suite, along with Entra Internet Access and Private Access and Identity Protection. And so the solution has been in the market. It's GA, and we have a lot of customer usage, and including customers who have migrated off legacy or solutions, legacy governance solutions. But in order for you to fully evaluate if it replaces, you need to prioritize your use cases and decide and do an evaluation to see if it addresses. But it is a comprehensive governance solution. So my hope is that it will achieve your goals either now or down the road. So I would encourage you to do an evaluation of the capabilities to see if it solves your priorities.
Great. Thanks, Sinead. Another question from Neil regarding Entra Private Access. How do we set up network security and access for cloud-hosted resources in case of serverless resources, for instance, a SQL database? Ashish?
That's a great question again. It really depends on how you're using the resources and which cloud are your resources hosted in. Let me take an example of Azure. So if, for instance, if you're using Azure Managed SQL, or you're using Azure SQL databases hosted on Azure, provided to you as a managed cloud service, then you have potentially two options wherein you can bring in Entra Private Access and our identity platform, bringing in modern security solutions in front of your SQL resources or other resources on Azure, which are hosted that you're using. The first approach is you can use private endpoint, wherein you can virtually inject your cloud service into a virtual network that has a private access network connector, and then that enables you to bring conditional access in front of those private cloud hosted resources through private endpoint. And the second one could be your service endpoint, wherein you can ACL your PaaS service in Azure to a egress IP of the connector, which can be in your virtual network, again hosted on Azure. And similar architectures or similar solutions you can put together on other cloud hosted environments as well. So yes, in both the scenarios, Entra Private Access can be used to bring in secure access to these cloud hosted resources. If you're using these resources over internet, Entra Internet Access also has very interesting additional capabilities like compliant network that you can use for resources that understand modern identity. And we can talk about those in more detail.
Great, thanks, Ashish. Question now from Seth on LinkedIn. Are Active Directory client functions, such as applying group policy or other functions that require line of sight to a domain controller using private access? Also, is private DNS general availability yet, or what's the plan there? Ashish, I think this would be a good one for you too.
Sure. With Entra Private Access, your endpoint or your Windows devices which are joined to your on-premises domain, they will be able to access domain controller securely over Entra Private Access. All of those functions should continue to work. You will need to onboard your domain controller as an application in Entra, similar to how you define any application with Entra Private Access today. In the same way, you can do that for your domain controller as well, and bring in conditional access, bring in modern authentication for the domain controller as well. Now, this would typically need you to use DNS capability, so that if you're using protocols like Kerberos or NTLM, which will do service discovery to discover the domain controller and so on, DNS will enable those scenarios for you. Now, private DNS has been in private preview for quite some time. It's very close to becoming public preview. Today, you can access DNS with public preview capabilities by going to this link aka.ms/VPN replacement, and you should be able to use it on any tenant. And hopefully later this month, we should be able to get to a public preview of private DNS.
We're really, really excited for that. Thank you, Ashish. Now, next question from Mark on our tech community, very specific to internet access. Does the internet traffic get proxied by Microsoft services, or does it route direct from the client after the rules are processed? If all the traffic is tunneled via Microsoft Entra, a couple questions here. One, can specific websites be split out so that they do not get proxied via Microsoft? Kind of traffic forwarding question here. And then the second one is, do clients get a sticky outgoing IP via the Microsoft egress IPs? Yair, I think that'd be a great question for you.
Yeah, so the first, all the traffic that is configured in the traffic forwarding profile is forwarded to our service edge, and this is where the rules, security rules are applied. So it's not applied on the endpoint, it's applied on the service side. You get to decide what traffic you want to send, and you could send like 0/0, basically everything, or you could send like specific destinations. If you don't want to send everything. There is a feature in Works, maybe Ashish can comment on that one, to actually have exclusions so that you send 0/0, but like you said, you say, actually, I don't want like these specific destinations to be excluded. I know it's in the Works, but Ashish, what is the current state of that one? Can you comment on this one specifically?
It's currently in early preview and should hopefully become more broadly available soon.
Yeah, so we are working on the ability to exclude, but you can achieve the same goal today by just configuring more specifically your traffic forwarding profile for what you want to acquire. And then the other question was about the egress IPs that you get. So you get an egress IP that is from our service. It's not specific to your tenant or to your organization today. We do have on our roadmap a capability to bring your own IP. But there is also an alternative solution that is not based on IP addresses that Ashish mentioned briefly before. And this is based on the conditional access integration. Basically, we have a very unique capability called compliant network. And in compliant network, if the target destination that is interested in basically controlling access to, for example, you have a specific downstream service that is federated, that service can say, hey, I only allow access from my compliant network. And that way, through conditional access. And that way, I don't know, your Salesforce, for example. And that way, you don't really need the IP address. You basically go beyond IP addresses to a more abstract construct that gives you the same value.
Great. Thank you, Yair, for the answer there. New question from Russell. This is more about our overarching goals as an SSE platform. Is the intent to grow the Microsoft Security Service Edge offering to a full-blown Security Service Edge solution, including features that have already been mentioned today, including SSPM and CSPM, as well as our CASB integration, secure web gateway, remote browser isolation, and the rest of the usual suspects that are typically assigned or called an SSE offering? What are the plans for our SSE offering, and what will that look like? Sinead, I think that would be a great one for you.
Well, the first one is our SSE solution is a secure web gateway. So I want to be just very, very clear. We already are a secure web gateway. And we're context aware, secure web gateway integrated with conditional access. And yes, our goals over time is Microsoft does have a CSPM offering today, a very good one, even market leading one, and we will integrate with the Microsoft CSPM and support that. We will also deeply integrate with our CASB. Again, our CASB solution today is in a separate, but where conditional access is the mechanism, the primary mechanism where we all integrate. And so we will be bringing more of that together in kind of a more seamless experience. And I think, you talked about that too, is like, hey, we want there to be just one definition of an application, and it all using Entra ID as, defining all the apps so that you can create these great policies. And then we're very customer centric. So we're really listening to our customers and saying, well, what is important? And then using that to drive what additional security policies we'll be adding. We have been quite clear, and like we do have a roadmap that we're clear on. Like we will be adding cloud firewall, we will be adding threat intelligence filtering. So we do have a kind of a rich roadmap of new capabilities we're bringing. And again, we want to hear from you. So tell us, we will prioritize them. And so it's not for us, it's all about making sure that we're adding value and making it seamless for customers and also protecting customers. So you will see deeper integration with the Microsoft suite coming, and you will see more network security modules lighting up in our SSE offering over the next year. And look forward to getting your feedback on those and your input on where we should prioritize.
Thank you, Sinead. Yes, this seamless network security integration is really, really exciting going forward. So really, really excited about that. Another question from Jordan on Tech Community. Will the Global Secure Access client be able to support logging in with an alternate credential from either a different tenant, or will it be kind of stuck to that home tenant of the device? Ashish, could you maybe speak to that?
That's a great question. Short answer is yes, it will be able to support logging in with alternate credentials, and especially those credentials which are in a different tenant. So we are working to light up tenant switching experiences in GSA client. On the roadmap, we have even more interesting capabilities around similar lines, wherein not just tenant switching, but we will bring in compliance health check from a different tenant as well as you log into that tenant, although your device is managed from a different tenant. So we have very interesting capabilities on the roadmap to light up those experiences.
Great, thank you, Ashish. Another question from Danea. Does the Entra governance for internet traffic not only block certain types of sites, but also in concert apply reputation-based intelligence for websites as well? Additionally, are there clear user-facing messages for traffic blocking or warnings? What do those look like, and what is the plan there? Yair?
Yeah, fantastic question. So first, in terms of threat intelligence or reputation-based, this is basically controlling or filtering traffic based on non-malicious IP addresses and domains. We do have some basic form of that as part of our existing secure web gateway. There is a category for bad sites in a sense. But we are bringing a much more comprehensive solution, which Sinead alluded to before, threat intelligence-based filtering. It's in advanced kind of development, so we expect to see it coming in the next few months. And this is traffic filtering based on the Microsoft Threat Intel feed. It's coming from more than 50 different sources, constantly updated. There is a big team of researchers working on that, some of these Microsoft buys. So this is definitely going to be integral part of our solution. As for the other question for messages, when you have Secure Web Gateway, and you don't terminate the traffic, there is really no way in the browser to give a message to the person because you're not terminating the traffic. If you do TLS termination, there is a way to actually give message in the browser. We have currently the plan in progress to actually give users notifications on the client if they are coming from a client, and to give something in the browser. It's in the works to give better messages, but it's not out yet. But you can expect to see it in the near future.
Thank you, Yair, on those roadmap items. It's very helpful. Question from Robert on our tech community site. Are there any plans to bring a flavor of this to the consumer side? So any flavor of Security Service Edge for consumers, for instance, bringing this as part of the Microsoft 365 family plans that a lot of families might be using. Sinead, maybe you can take this.
Yeah, right now, no. The short answer is we're just getting started on the enterprise side, and a long list of capabilities and customer requests. So right now, I think we'll stay focused on the enterprise side, and then maybe reevaluate a year from now. But currently, no. So,
thank you, Sinead. Question from Vishal. Will there be a way to prevent users from pausing the GSA client in the near future on the Windows device or any cross-platform device, and kind of limit that ability to just device administrators to do it over either a remote session or over the Entra management portal? Ashish would be a good one for you.
It's a very sought after question, and we understand that feedback. We understand where the ask is coming from, and we've already been working on this. And the good news is that this feature has already been working in our internal builds and soon should be available for preview, and thereafter we'll make it available in production. And we will make it available to you in a way so that you can easily manage it. You should be able to push, for instance, on Windows, you'll be able to push a registry key, which will enforce that users can't disable it. You will be able to also control whether the disable or the pausing options become available to the user in the UI or not. So all of that will become manageable very seamlessly. And yes, pausing the client is something that will become available very soon.
Thank you, Ashish. Thank you very much for the insight there. Now, kind of as we come closer to wrapping up our AMA session today, thank you folks very much for coming in here and answering such a breadth of questions about the SSE solution. I think we're all very excited to share more about this as well. And folks, please also feel free to reach out offline on the Tech Accelerator sites as well. We can certainly respond to questions offline as well. One last question for each of you folks today. Do you have any quick final tips or anything that you'd like to share with our audience today about the new SSE solution? And maybe we can go just across all three of our speakers today. Maybe Sinead, would you like to start?
Sure. I would just maybe start, if you're looking at an SSE solution, I would ask you to ask yourself a question, which is, are you using conditional access? Has it achieved good security outcomes for you? And so my tip for you would be that now we've extended conditional access to any IP address. It's as simple as that. And so, and it's so powerful. And you have one policy engine for all your access. So that would be my kind of closing hey, do you like it? If you want to have more, you should really look at our SSE solution with identity at the center. Yair, what would you add?
Yeah, I just wanted to first thank people for joining us today and say that we are all in. It might look in some areas that we are behind, some areas we are more advanced than others, but we are all in, and we are here to satisfy all customer needs, and we are going to deliver a lot more capabilities over the next 12 to 24 months. So stay tuned. Shish.
Thanks, Yair. My closing thought would be a quick tip, and it's not new. I think most folks out there already know. I think a good thought would be to see if you're using VPN. A good question to ask yourself would be, hey, am I using VPN? Am I still on VPN? Is this how my workforce connecting to my network, connecting to my applications remotely? And if the answer turns out to be yes, then the second question you should have is, do I have a plan to get off VPN and enable secure access? So that would be my closing thought. And if you do reach the second question, I would say keep us in mind, and we are always open to your feedback. Reach out to us, and we are happy to work with you and make sure that the product works well for you.
Well, thank you, folks, for these closing remarks. It's really great. It's a really great session. And thank you again, folks, for joining us today in this AMA session. Just for everyone to be aware, all of today's sessions were recorded and can be viewed on demand. We'll leave the Q&A on Tech Community open through Friday of this week. So please keep your questions coming and check back for our team to answer those. That concludes our AMA and this Microsoft Entra Suite Tech Accelerator. Thank you all for joining. Please visit aka.ms/accelerate-entra to catch up on demand. So thank you, folks.